Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.
It goes all my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around. And all my life's a circle, I can't tell you why. Seasons spinning round again, the years keep rolling by.
Welcome to Story by Story, sharing the human experience. I'm Kate Dudding, and this is
Marni Gillard.
Marni is our regular substitute host. Our filming was disrupted by a snowstorm, and when we rescheduled, two of us could make it, but Joe couldn't, so we went with, and the studio. And it's particularly wonderful because Marni very well knows our guest today, who is Aditya Agashe from Colonie. Oh, where do we start? Well, I guess we start at the beginning.
Sure.
How did you get involved in storytelling?
Okay, so since I was a child, my grandmother always told me stories. And whenever I visited India or she visited America, I couldn't ever sleep at night without her telling me at least 2 stories. And so since I was small, I always had that storytelling background. And in the summer of 8th grade, there was a performance at my local Hindu temple. Mm-hmm. And at this performance, Children at the Well was there, and there were teenagers coming up on stage, and they were proudly sharing stories from their cultures, from their faiths. And you know, I'd always been interested in storytelling because of my grandmother. And so I decided to talk to Paula and Marni. And I got, information about the group, and I joined. 9th grade was my first year. And ever since then, I've loved it, and I've been doing it, and I plan to do it in the future, too.
Excellent. And could you tell us what Children at the Well is?
Oh, Children at the Well, youth storytellers for peace and understanding. I always want to say justice because, of course, that would be fitting as well. It's a group that's been going now about 7 years, I think, and it's young people from all over the Capital District. You could start as early as 11 years old, and we have some graduates now that are even college students and show up once in a while, which, of course, at the end of this year, Aditya will be that too.
Yeah.
We meet generally from about the first weekend in January through April, and we put on 2 different performances, one for our newer students, one for our older students. And then throughout the rest of the year, we're often going to conferences and becoming performers at different kinds of social events in the Capital District, or sometimes outside. We've traveled quite a bit, actually. And Aditya has been one of our stars the last few years. He's such a natural storyteller, and he came to love it so much. Your passion really shows through.
Thank you.
So he's done a lot of performing.
And a bit of traveling.
Yeah.
And now, Aditya got this tremendous honor. In the storytelling world, you say this and everyone goes, "Ooh!" But you might not be a member of the storytelling world yet. But Aditya was one of 8 students chosen in 2013 as the, let me get it right, National Youth Storytelling Showcase Torchbearers, and one of only 2 high school students so selected. And they were invited to come as guests to the Timpanogos Storytelling Conference out in Provo, Utah. So this is a huge honor, and you're the first youth that I know. You're the second youth I know from New York State to have to be so selected. That someone from New York City, a first grader, was chosen a few years ago. But what was that experience like?
Okay, so the conference was for 3 to 4 days. And in that time, initially we got to meet each other, And there were people of, the children there that won. They were, a couple high schoolers. There were a lot of middle schoolers and a couple elementary. One girl who was in first grade. And so there was a really diverse age group. And so the funny thing is that even though there was such a large age gap, by the end of it, we all got to know each other really well because we practiced our stories with each other and we did workshops together, because at the actual conference, there were professional storytellers from all around the world, and they came and they gave their workshops, and we did activities with them on body language, on how to improve our stories, how to read the audience better, all so you can develop as a storyteller. So that was a lot of fun. Some notable people that I got to meet were Bill Harvey, who has won a couple Grammys in the past, and then some professors at various universities, one from Columbia, and so I got to talk to all of them, and it was nice how they explained how they got into storytelling and how they use that, even though that's not their profession, they find other outlets for it, and it was really nice meeting them. And definitely, it was a great learning experience. I had a great time.
And you said you were practicing your story. So, did all the torchbearers have a performance?
Yes. So at the end of on Saturday, the end of this 4-day conference, we had a large performance in front of everyone who was there at the conference, and basically we went up and told, and they also taped it, so they're gonna release it online too and give us DVDs, so that's nice. And also, if you look closely in the background when they zoom out, they made a poster, because the night before, what had happened was there was an impromptu performance that they selected me for, because that night, Bill Harvey and another nationally recognized storyteller, they were both going to go on stage and they were going to tell to the whole city of Orem, because Provo is like a town in Orem. So they were all going to perform there, and there were like 1,000 or so people there. And so originally it was only Bill Harvey and the other woman, and they were going to tell, but just impromptu at like 5 in the afternoon, someone came up to us and asked if we would tell there, and so they selected me and another kid. And so we got up there at like 7:30-ish at night, and we told 2 of our best stories there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
So they had a big life-size poster of me there at the end. So you
I
can
think
see
I
that.
saw a picture of that.
Yes.
That was great.
Yes, and on we have a slide of you standing next to your poster that Greg will be inserting in that. So you got to perform twice at the Timpanoga Storytelling Conference.
Nice. So, and probably took a little bit of the nervousness out of you for the next day.
Exactly, because this story that I told on Saturday, right, with the other torchbearers, it was my personal story about my grandmother, actually, how she taught me not to lie, me and my cousins, and it's a playful, funny, humorous story. But the night before, it was a story that I had told many times before. And with like such a large audience, they were just giving me energy, and I was just riding those waves, and it was awesome because it took away all my nervousness right there.
There's nothing like a great audience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And for those of you who don't know, again, not being part of the storytelling world, Timpanogos has been running the largest, actually, storytelling festival for years and years. They get about 20,000 people showing up Labor Day weekend. It's in Utah, and so often it's 3 generations are piling out of this van to attend. They have open amphitheaters. And you can be outside in Utah in September. Not so much in February, but so there's quite a large audience there, and they're very skilled in listening. That's not quite experienced in listening to stories, and so they will pick up more nuances than just an average audience because they come every year, and so it's. Way cool that you were chosen there and you got to experience the conference.
Yeah, I had a great time.
So, So we've been talking about you telling stories. Maybe this would be a good time for you to actually tell a story.
Sure. Actually, I'll tell the one that I told there at the conference. Third day. Sure.
Your
So-
impromptu.
Impromptu
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Can you tell a story tonight? Sure. What the heck?
Sure. So this story is called Mudra Shastra, the language of signs. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived a great king. And during this king's rule, India went into a time of great prosperity and wealth. New cities were built, trade flourished, and all of the people were happy. All, except one merchant who faced a rather large problem. Every day I go out into the market and what do I see? People from the north, the south, the east, the west. How am I to possibly communicate with them? One is speaking this, another is speaking that. Then there are dialects, vernacular. I cannot understand anything. I know. I will create a language of signs so everyone can communicate with me. Yes. And so, there he had it. He had his first sign. And he went on to write many, many books on this. And he became the top scholar, the leading pundit of this new language of signs, which he called Mudra Shastra. Now, once he had become such a great scholar, he decided to travel to the king's court so he too would be known all throughout India, and so he would have a high reputation. And so one day he marched into the king's palace and said, "Hey king, come. I have come here to debate you." Now, I know what you're thinking. A debate? I can do that. No. This is not any ordinary debate though. Here are some the books that I've written on this new language that I call Mudra Shastra, the language of signs. Take these books, brush up on them, and I'll be back in 1 week or so to debate you. And with that, he left. Now the king didn't know who this man was or what these books were on, but he knew that if someone challenged him, he wouldn't back down. And so he had a meeting with all of his ministers and his advisors to ask them and to find one person who would participate in the debate because, of course, the king didn't know this new language. And so, after hours and hours of debating, one brilliant man stood up and said, "King, relax. I know what to do. Why don't we, take the books and throw them out the window? We're going to lose anyways. Just give up." Give up? No. Giving up is not an option. Think about what would happen if we give up. Everything that we have worked for to achieve such a high reputation will be lost. Everyone will lose their faith in us. Giving up is not an option. And so, they continued to discuss more and more ideas, and soon they had a solid plan. The king sent all of his guards throughout the country to find one person who was willing to participate in the debate. And if this person won, well, the king would give him a large sack of coins because he would raise the reputation of the king and his kingdom. And so, 1 day went by, 2 days went by, 3 whole days went by, and not a single person wanted to participate because everyone knew that if they lost, they would be ridiculed. And so, slowly the week came to the end. And finally the guards, they had no option. They had to ask anyone now. And so finally, on the last day, the guards asked one man that they saw on the street, but he was dressed in ragged clothes and his hair was all frazzled and he appeared to be blind in one eye. And when the guards asked him, he said, "You want me to do what? A debate? 500 gold coins? Where do I sign?" And so they had a man who would participate. And so they brought him back to the king's court. And that night they taught him the new language of signs. And the next morning they dressed him in lavish clothes with nice big spectacles because he was blind in one eye. And so soon the day came, and the merchant, the pundit, the scholar, he walked in. "Hey king, are you ready for our debate? Come. Look, I brought the media with us, all the reporters, so that when I win, everyone will know about it." "You did what?" No. I won't be debating you today, don't worry. I have selected the smartest, the most clever man in all of India. In all of my advisors have chosen him too, to debate you. And out walked the farmer. Except he didn't look like a farmer. He was dressed in lavish clothes with those nice glasses. And so he came out, and the two men, they looked at each other, and the debate commenced. Being the guest, the pundit decided to go first. True. And with that, the merchant bowed at his feet and he fled. What just happened? I mean, he was a brilliant scholar, and he came in and he just ran off. So the king had to know what happened. He sent his guards out to figure out and find the merchant and ask him, what happened? And so once the guards caught up to him, the pundit, the merchant, he said, "There's so much pollen in the air, yeah? Let me calm down and clean my eyes." And once he had settled down, he said, "I got in there thinking that I was going to win. I raised one finger, signifying that there is one God, and He is all around us. But that brilliant man, that genius, he raised two fingers, signifying that God is around us and within us." Okay, now at this point I had to think a little bit, because that was a fairly good argument. And I raised three fingers, signifying that God is around us, within us, and in our soul. But then that genius, he raised his fist, signifying that God is not all these divided forms. He is one unified and powerful being. And with this logic, I knew I had lost, and I paid my respects and dashed off. And so the guards, they brought this message back to the king. And now the king was also shocked that this farmer had won. So he asked him, "How did you win the debate?" And the farmer said, "Oh, no, I know all this tricky business. Give me my 500 gold coins first, then I will talk." And so he got his payment first, and he counted each and every coin. And then he explained to the king, "Now, king, do not get angry at me, or worse, steal my money, my precious. But that man, he was a coward, and he was insulting me the whole time. He came in here, and he raised one finger, making fun of my one blind eye. I said, 'Who do you think you are?' So I raised two fingers, signifying that my one blind eye is better than both your eyes." But then he wouldn't stop. He raised three fingers, signifying that between us there are only three eyeballs. I said, "Dude, continue talking, I'll punch you in the nose." And so he bowed at my feet and he dashed off. And so the king learned that day the power of silence, and now through eternal silence comes eternal knowledge. Thank you.
Oh, that's such a great story.
Thank you.
I never get tired of hearing it. I've heard it often, but you're very much in the story. You're alive, and all the characters come to life. Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
drag us into the moment so very well. But was this one of the stories your grandmother told you?
It actually was. So, you know, I really liked the story since I was small, and that's why it particularly stuck to me. Also because I used to make my grandmother tell me it over and over again. So yeah, she did tell me it when I was small, and it stuck with me because it was funny and it had a nice moral, and how things can have double meanings, you know. So yeah, I liked it, and so I told this in my 3rd year at Children at the Well.
Yes.
Yeah, and it went well. So
I've really
I like it.
enjoyed watching you make it your own. I'm sure your grandmother tells it as a wonderful grandmother telling to a child, but there's something about watching it develop over these couple of years that's been fun.
Yeah, it's been nice trying to craft it too, because like you have the framework first, and then like you have to insert your own body language, your own expressions, and all of different characters, how they're thinking,
right.
and that's a really fun process.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
She probably didn't say, dude. It's just a guess. Unless that's where that term came from India earlier on before it hit the culture here.
You think of it as an ancient story, and then suddenly we have the media.
And dude.
I like that, though.
Thank you.
Now, has anyone ever told you there's a Jewish version of that?
Yes, I have heard that many times. Like after I tell the story, you know, they come up and they tell me, oh, there's a farmer who has a chicken, and that's incorporated in the
And
story.
sometimes that's a woman.
It's a woman.
I've heard it told as a
Yeah.
woman, sometimes not. So yes, it's these kinds of stories have traveled somehow from somewhere to otherwheres, and if there's a Jewish version, there might be a Muslim version too. That when I first went with the Interfaith Story Circle of the Capital District to their when they met at the Muslim temple.
The mosque.
The mosque, thank you. The Hindu temple, Muslim mosque, sorry. There were a number of people from their community telling stories, and almost all of them, I went, oh, there's a Jewish version of that. That, you know, I may not have realized it at the beginning but by the time they got to the end of the story, oh yeah, that's the same as. So these stories move quite a bit. Now, you do the voices so well, and
Thank you.
and so there was a very distinct voice between different voices between the merchant and the farmer. Did your grandmother do that? Was she a role model for you doing that, or?
The voices I just added in because I wanted to make the farmer as eccentric as possible. So usually I talk to like this sometimes. Yeah, and that just added to his character, and that's how I saw him talking, because he would have maybe like a like, you know how in America like there's a southern accent, so that's kind of like the rural accent of India. So I just decided to throw that in. Yeah.
That's great.
Yes, that was splendid.
Thank
and
you.
actually, that was how your audition for being a New York State showcase torchbearer. There we go. And then once you were selected in New York State, that video went on to Utah or wherever the judges were.
Yeah.
And so that story was how you became a National Youth Storytelling Showcase torchbearer.
Well, that story wasn't the one I auditioned for.
No?
No, that was just one I'd done before. I did this story the year before. Last year I did my grandmother's story, the personal story about telling lies, and that's the one I used to audition for.
Really?
I can tell that later if we have time. But
okay, I thought I had. Well, I'm confused, clearly. So not only do you tell traditional stories, but personal stories too. That's some storytellers, some professional storytellers have a very focused genre and they may only tell one type, folk tales or personal stories. So having the breadth to go beyond that it's lovely.
Thank you.
And then some people are, I've seen people use a personal framework to highlight a folk tale.
Yeah.
So, and Motoko says hello to you.
Oh, she also said hello.
Yeah.
I said hello to you.
Right. Motoko was one of the professional storytellers who was at the conference, and she's a friend of mine. She lives in Amherst, Massachusetts, and we are collaborating on a workshop at the National Storytelling Conference in August. So we were talking earlier this week, and
She's probably been on a story studio taping, hasn't she?
no, because she's so far away. We've never had her
I
here.
thought maybe she'd been in the area. Or
Though it would have to. Yes.
plant that seed.
Yes. We'll have to see when she does have a regular residency in Charlton School, and she stays at my house when she does that. But we never thought of doing that. Oh, and good, Motoko.
Great to have her on the show.
Motoko, man. I find that I specialize in stories about people, real people who have made a difference, and maybe they're famous and maybe they're not. I tell other kinds of stories, but those are the ones I go after deliberately. And I find, I read a lot. I love reading, and so I find out much more that I really need to. But you see, I don't know what the story is. I just know I'm interested in this person, and I'm trying to figure out. So I'd listen as somebody said, "What have you been looking into?" I tell them, and then I pay attention to what I've just said, and I'm going, "Oh, clearly I think that's important." And so then why do I think that's important? And does that tie in with why I started looking at this person? Because I'm worried that I'm coming up with an encyclopedia article as opposed to a story. And so I'm just enough to make a story. And so, yes. So what I end up saying to people, or especially if I tell an early version of the story, and then when people are chatting with me, I tell them a few more things. I go, I better put those few more things into the story that I can't let them go without knowing these other things. So it's
This might be not anything you've thought about, but if you were going to tell the story of a person or maybe a particular event that you'd ever experienced or read about, can you just imagine off the cuff what would be a story like that you might enjoy investigating? Sort of a story that you'd have to investigate a little bit unless you had experienced it.
From my life?
Yeah, or yeah.
Yeah. So actually, the personal story that I told, I did a similar thing for that. So that year, I knew I wanted to tell a personal story because in the past years, I had done, cultural stories, funny stories, wisdom tales. So I wanted something different. So, I looked to my background. What could I, tell a story about? And of course, when I think of storytelling, I think about my grandmother. So I, thought of the different memories we had, what could be made into a funny story. And the one thing I recalled was that when I was small, really small, like 10 years ago, my cousins and I, we were all visiting India. And during this time, basically, it's India, right? It was monsoon season then. So it was raining, it was pouring outside, and so we couldn't go outside and play cricket or anything. So my grandmother came and she said, okay, today you have the option, right? Do you want to play a game or you want me to tell you a story? So we all wanted to play a game, right? Because we were interested in cricket. So she, decided to play a game with us. And she said, okay, come close and tell me the biggest lie you can think of. And so, we were all shocked. Our parents had told us, never to lie. And here our grandmother was promoting it. So it was like the first time I had challenged authority. So it was memorable in my mind. And so, we all came up with creative lies. My cousins, they told lies about dinosaurs and how they rode it all around town. One got a magical cape that made him invisible. I told a lie about how I became a millionaire on the plane ride over. Just simple things like that. And so after that, our grandmother said, excellent job. Since you all told wonderful lies, here is a bowl full of sugar cubes. And, as a child, we loved sugar cubes because they were literally our fuel. We just popped them in and we were ready to go. And so we just took handfuls and we just ate them. But after a second or two, we realized they weren't sugar cubes. And so we got a little annoyed and we asked our grandmother, these taste yucky, what is it? And she said, oh, now let me teach you a lesson. And she had us come in closer and she said, these are not actually sugar cubes. They're salt cubes. Because they look similar. They look right like each other. So she had tricked us in order to explain to us why we shouldn't lie. That when you lie, you can never be sure what's the truth and what is not. And when you lie, people around you, they lose their trust in you. So she wanted to teach us this lesson, so she played the game with us. And right after that, she said, okay, I'll make it up to you. And she told us a story. So we got the best of both worlds that day.
Yes, wonderful.
And basically that was a particular memorable event from my childhood, because nothing like that had ever happened before.
Sure.
And so I decided, to make a story on that. I could definitely add humor in there for the lies and really bring out the essence of my grandmother, make it maybe as a tribute because of everything she's done.
Sure.
So it worked out well. And I auditioned with that story this year.
Oh, that was the one
That
you
was the
auditioned.
story.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Great. A story like that makes the listener remember things from their childhood too. I think just the idea of seeing you as a little boy with all your cousin, that takes me right back to my family house when all my cousins came to visit and the mischief that we got into or the fun that we had. And it'll trigger a story in somebody else. So that's a wonderful thing about storytelling as well. That natural kind of storytelling that we all do.
And by picking that event, I was thinking, I'd like to meet this woman. She's really interesting. Is she still with us?
Yes,
oh,
she is.
Cool.
She visited last summer, actually. I don't think you got a chance to meet her, unfortunately, but maybe next time.
Yeah. Oh, that. I was wondering, did she think ahead? Oh, I'm going to have all 8 grandsons? Or
it was just 3.
No, just 3. Okay.
Yeah.
3 grandsons. What am I going to do with them? Oh, I could do that. I wonder if she did that with her own children.
Maybe. I don't think so, because she had read it in she said she read it in the book a couple days before, and she wanted to do it. So, because we were all young then, and we hadn't been taught any of these things before. So.
And it also reminded me of a friend of mine whose family went really big into April Fool's jokes. And one of the things she did one year that she was most proud of was putting salt in the sugar bowl.
Oh, yes.
And have her parents put the sugar in their coffee and then drink the coffee. So I knew.
Where I was going to go with
Yeah,
that.
I knew,
It's sort of another antic of childhood that perhaps is worldwide because sugar and salt look the same. You can play a trick on somebody.
Yes, yes. Well, why don't we take a little pause here that we have a few coming attractions, and then I know you have coming attractions too, beyond what's happening in April. So let's see. first one I want to talk about is what's happening right here at the Colonie Town Library on Saturday, April 13th. We're having Laughin Night. It's a doubleheader of storytelling. At 7 o'clock, there'll be stories for families, stories that make you giggle and grin. And our storytellers there will be Mary Murphy and Nancy Marie Payne, who have also been storytelling coaches for children at the Well, as it happens. So it's a free performance, co-produced by the Town Library and Story Circle Productions. But because the Stedman room, it's a nice-sized room, but it has a finite number of chairs that can fit into it. You need to call and make a reservation. And that number, in case it's a little small on your screen, is 810-0315, or the Youth Services Desk at the library. And the second part of the doubleheader is You Might As Well Laugh at 8:30, and it's a performance for teens and adults, and we have some teen storytellers such as Aditya Agashe, Retha Mehta, and Ben Russell, all from Children at the Well, as well as Margaret French, who is definitely a grown-up, and she has been announcing that she just turned 70, and she's going to walk in the Avon Walk for Breast Cancer Research. I think it's the 4th time she's done this. So I don't know, You Might As Well Laugh. I don't know if she'll be mentioning that then. But again, that requires a reservation, and it's free.
And Margaret will tickle your funny bone as well, for sure.
Margaret mostly tells personal stories of often misadventures or she likes going to unusual museums. Like, did you know there's an International Jell-O Museum in Western New York someplace? Margaret has been there. So she has a story about going to a different international museum on a topic that you would go, they have a museum on that? So Margaret is not to be missed, as are not to be missed also our tellers from Children, our older, very experienced tellers from Children at the Well. And speaking of Children at the Well, there'll be a performance the following Tuesday, April 16th at 7 p.m. at the Niskayuna Reformed Church with the newer tellers from Children at the Well. That's preceded by a potluck supper.
Vegetarian potluck.
Of course, because one wants to be inclusive with all the different types of cultures that are mingling.
That's right.
And there's more information at the website, childrenatthewell.org. And then will you be participating in the Sunday performance?
Yep.
At the Hudson Valley Community College, 2 o'clock Sunday, April 21st. Youth storytellers from their telling stories from their faith traditions. Please come, because donations are asked, which will fund the subsequent, or maybe pay for, one or the other classes at Children at the Well. Okay, but you guys, you guys are doing something really exciting at the end, both at the end of April and in June.
At the end of April, Aditya and I and Ben Russell, another youth storyteller, and Nancy Marie Payne, one of the other coaches, have been invited to the Connecticut Storytelling Festival. And if you Google Connecticut Storytelling Festival 2013, you can get all the details about how to register and come. It's in New London, Connecticut, which is a lot of fun on the college campus. And I haven't been in years. I used to go to the Connecticut Festival all the time, but it often conflicted with Riverway Storytelling Festival in Albany, which isn't scheduled that weekend this year. And so we'll have a good time.
Yeah.
I can promise you that.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And in June,
there's the Clearwater Festival.
The Clearwater Festival. You know, Pete Seeger, that kind of Clearwater Festival, the Clearwater Sloop. This has been going on for decades, and there's a Story Grove, I think is the official name, that the Story Crafters put on, and you will be there.
Yep. And I think there are 5 other storytellers that they want. I think they're Ritham, Emily, Sarah, Ada is coming, Paula's daughter.
Oh, lovely.
Me, and I'm not actually sure I'm the last person. That's still up for grabs. But yeah, we're going to go. Oh, Ben. Last one is Ben.
And what weekend in June is that?
That's
Father's Day weekend. It's always Father's Day weekend.
Around the
So that's
18th, 19th, something like that.
Yeah, like the third Sunday
Yep.
in June. Whatever that is. So that's a really great honor.
Thank you. I'm excited for that. That's going to be pretty big.
And last year, you and Emily and I don't know who else were down at the Mohegan Storytelling Festival.
Yes.
Yes.
Ben as well.
Yeah, Ben too.
Northern, what county is that?
I think
Westchester.
It's Mohegan.
Westchester.
Oh,
Yes. I was going, it's south of Putnam. What the heck is that? Yes. Yes. So you've been getting quite around.
They also actually gave a little bit of a workshop maybe at the Ossining Library or Rockland County Library, something like that last year.
For Mohegan County? For that festival?
No, it wasn't a festival. It was just at a library. Maybe it was a couple of the other kids.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not sure.
I think Ritham went to that. I didn't get to go to that one. Was it up north?
It was south of Albany.
Oh, south.
Rockland has had a storytelling festival on 1 or 2 Saturdays.
This was just a librarian in a library that was interested in maybe getting a youth storytelling started.
Oh, okay.
And she had a group she'd kind of been working with already, but really wanted those kids to see some kids who'd been at it quite a while. And I was invited to go, but I wasn't able to go that day. And it sounded like a fun event.
Yeah.
Oh, and before I forget, we have a collection of stories from this show on our website, storycircle@proctors.org. There's a YouTube button to click on, and you can see over 8 hours of stories. Ben Russell, his name has been bandied about hither and yon, one of the older students, or one of the original students from Children at the Well, who is now in college. We had him on a couple of months ago. And so you can find him, and shortly you'll find Aditya, these stories. So if there's nothing on the TV worth watching, go to your computer and watch stories on storycircle@proctors.org. Okay, so that's the coming attractions. And so we have about 13 minutes left.
I got another question, if I could
okay.
ask it.
How long is your next story?
How long do we have?
I said 13 minutes.
Yeah, so I can make it like 7 minutes. If need be.
Okay. So you have time for your
Well,
question?
maybe it'll be just a lead-in for you in terms of coming to this group that was intercultural and interfaith. I wondered if you had something to say about what that experience has been like.
So back in 9th grade, right, I only really knew a lot about my culture. I'm a Hindu. And so like every Sunday I would, go to the heritage classes at my temple, and that was the only philosophy that I had heard of, or not heard of, but that I'd learned. But after joining Children at the Well, before that I was shy and I wouldn't like share my thoughts and ideas with others. And after joining Children at the Well and seeing, people of all different traditions, Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Baha'is, and like all these different people just coming together and sharing stories from their own cultures. We pointed out at my original story, you said there's a Jewish version of it, and things like that. Like people have heard these stories before because, of course, stories travel, and we realized that there are a lot of values and morals and that we all believe in, and that are in the core of all cultures and religions. And by identifying these similarities without preaching them, our audiences, I really think, they're able to remove any religious barriers that they may have, because they realize that even though the other person practices a different religion, they believe in the same or similar values and beliefs, and it really helps in uniting people and breaking, as I said, these different barriers, because people are able to understand more about others. So,
I know it's been a great delight for me to be part of this organization for so many years, and I'm very grateful, and to watch all the storytellers develop. You did come from a shy boy. I remember that shy boy, and in 4 years, wow, we've really put you on stage.
Now, I'm peripherally involved in Children at the Well as the webmaster and a supporter. So I didn't know you I'm going, he was shy? Of course, I was shy too before I came into storytelling. So, But what I love about Children at the Well is well, as Gert Johnson, who's the founder of the Interfaith Story Circle, the parent organization, people find how much they have in common, and that the other stuff is in a lot of cases just stuff. It's not significant as how much you have in common. So it's as I created a story about Children of the Well, I think it's very much one path to world peace. And so.
We could all use a little of that.
Yes. And so when I donate to it, I'm going, well, I don't know really the big picture of how to get to world peace, but this is a baby step, and it's a positive direction, and so I'm going to do that. So we now have, my subtraction is 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes left. So
Sure.
You have another story.
Awesome. This is the first story that I told at Children at the Well, and it's called Arjuna and the Bird's Eye. Once, long ago in India, there lived another king, and this king had 5 sons. Now the eldest of these sons, his name was Yudhishthira, and being the eldest, Yudhishthira took charge of the brothers, and he was their sole leader. He was also the smartest of the brothers, or so he thought. The second oldest son, his name was Bhima. Now Bhima was very, very strong, and he would go out and work out every day. But other than that, he could eat and cook a little, but that's it. The middle son, the third oldest son, his name was Arjuna. And Arjuna was very focused and concentrated, and whenever he was given a task, he would achieve it to his fullest extent. The last 2 sons, they were actually twins, and the one that was born slightly before, his name was Nakula. And Nakula was the 4th oldest son, and he was very well dressed. He would always come in dressed elegantly, and he was very stylish. And the youngest son, the 5th oldest brother, the youngest one, his name was Sahadev. And Sahadev, well, he was very clever, and he would always, well, maybe a little too clever, because he would always find like random facts and observations that no one else thought of. These are the 5 brothers. And the ancient custom in India is when boys reach, the age of about 10 years of age, they're sent off to a guru or a teacher to learn. And being the sons of this magnificent king, they were sent off to the finest teacher in all of India. And this teacher's name was Dronacharya. Now Drona, as everyone called him because his name was way too long, was a great teacher and an even better archer. But there was only one flaw. He would get very, very, very angry if anyone made a mistake. So you had to remember to always be on his good side. So Drona took these students in, and he taught them everything he knew. He started from meditation so they could calm their minds and be focused on the task at hand. Then he moved on to teaching them how to go into the forest, select the right wood to carve and make a nice bow and the nice arrows out of, then how to string the bow, and finally, how to fire. And so, one day, after all of his sessions were done, he was meditating under a large banyan tree, which had many vines that sunk into the ground, and where they sunk in, luscious green grass grew, and it was the only tree in the nice big fields, and it was a really calm and peaceful sight. And he was sitting there, meditating, when a thought popped into his head. Arre, every day I go out and teach my students, but what are they actually learning? That Bhima, he always plays with the grass. I can never understand if he's paying attention or not. How do I figure out if they're actually learning? And so, he invented a test. This is where we get tests from. I know what to do. I will take an examination. And so, he got up and he told the students, "Hey, my pupils, come close, come close. Tomorrow, I will take your exam. And I will be testing you on everything that I have taught you up to this point. So remember, get a good night's sleep and come early in the morning for the test, because I'll be telling your father about the results. So you all better do well." And with that, he went off and he went back to his meditation. The brothers, they heeded his advice. They got a good night's sleep. And the next morning, they woke up before the sun rose so that they could meditate and be calm and ready and peaceful for the exam. And while they were meditating, Yudhishthira, the first oldest son, also the leader of the brothers, he thought he heard something in the distance, so he slowly opened his eyes and he looked, and there it was Drona. He was calling them for the exam. And so Yudhishthira got up and said, "Hey, brothers, come. I have devised a clever plan so that we will all get 100% on this exam. I will go first, of course, and I'll get 100 because, it's just a test. And then you can all copy me so that Drona will tell our father how wonderful we are, and he'll send us presents. Oh, this is such a good plan. Come." And so they walked over to Drona, and when they finally got there, Drona said, "Now look, Yudhishthira, I'm glad you're first in line. Now come. In this banyan tree, I have placed a small wooden bird right there. I want you to take my bow and this arrow and shoot the bird." Shoot the bird? What an easy task. He took the bow and the arrow and he aimed. And right before he fired, Drona asked him one question. "Wait, before you fire, I want you to tell me what you see right now." What I see? Could this exam get any easier? I see the tree, the banyan tree that has vines that are sinking into the ground. There's also grass everywhere. I see you, Drona. I see you standing in front of me. What? You have failed. Go think about what you have done wrong. What just happened? The plan had failed. Now, the next brother in line, Bhima, who, I'll remind you, was very strong and big, was quivering in fear because their plan had failed. What could he do? How could he pass? And so when Drona asked him what he saw, Bhima began to look for a way to impress Drona. And so he thought, and finally he ran over to the banyan tree and broke off some vines and said, "Drona, look, I can lift almost half a tree." What? Bhima, this is not a lifting competition. You have not learned anything that I have taught you. You too have failed. What? The two oldest brothers had just failed the exam, and 3 remained. And so the next person in line was Nakula. And as you remember, Nakula was very stylishly dressed. And so when he got up to Drona, he had a plan. He said, "Now Drona, I know you, and based on your body type, you would be perfect in this dress, in this suit. Take my suit and wear it. And because I gave you this token of our friendship, why don't you just tell my father that I got 100% on this exam and everything will be good. I'll keep giving you nice clothes as time goes by." Trying to bribe your teacher? No. You too have failed. But leave the suit, I'll keep the suit. And so the next brother in line was Sahadev. And so when Sahadev got there, he knew the answer. He was going to tell Drona what he saw in the tree. But there was this thought that was plaguing his mind, but he dismissed it, and he was going to tell Drona what he saw, but it came back. And he said, "Drona, lean in. Pluck. Look, it's a white hair. You're getting old." "Insulting your teacher? No. You too have failed." And so only one student was left, Arjuna. And when Arjuna got there, he was not at all nervous. He was focused on the task. But Drona had lost faith because all the other brothers had done something stupid. And so when Drona asked him, Arjuna calmly replied, "O great Drona, all I see is the eye of the small wooden bird that you have placed in the banyan tree." Now Drona was impressed. He said, "Good job, Arjuna. But your task is not over. Of course not. Take this bow and the arrow and shoot the bird." And again, Arjuna was calm. He took the bow and the arrow and he aimed. And he fired, and that arrow hit the dead center of the bird's eye. And now Drona was impressed. He said, "Good job, Arjuna. Now, call the other brothers over and let me calm down, because that was some ridiculous stuff that just went down. So, when I calm down, have them come by, and then I'll explain to them." So once he calmed down, all the brothers gathered, and he explained to them, "Now, I want you all to learn from this, especially you, Bhima. When you are focused and concentrated, like Arjuna, you can achieve absolutely anything you want. Arjuna was only concentrated on the task I gave him, and because of that, he was able to hit the bird. Now, I want you all to learn from this." And so they did all learn from this. And later on in their life, they used this lesson and were very, very successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Our time, unfortunately, is up. So thank you, Aditya Agashe and Marni Gillard.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you
having
for
us.
joining
Story by
us. Story, sharing the human experience.
It goes all my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around. And all my life's a circle, but I can't tell you why. Seasons spinning